The pen is mightier than the sword. It is not by the gray of the hair that one knows the age of the heart. Talent does what it can. Genius does what it must. The easiest person to deceive is one's self. When the world has once begun to use us ill, it afterwards continues to use us so, without any bounds, and appears to take a delight in it. A fool flatters himself, a wise man flatters the fool. Master books, but do not let them master you. Read to live, not live to read. The best teacher is the one who suggests rather than dogmatizes, and inspires his listener with the wish to teach himself. There is nothing so agonizing to the fine skin of vanity as the application of a rough truth. A life spent making mistakes is not only more honorable, but more useful than a life spent doing nothing. Genius does what it must, and talent does what it can. There is no such thing as chance, and what seems to us the merest accident springs from the deepest source of destiny. The true spirit of conversation consists in building on another man's observation, not overturning it. What mankind wants is not talent. It is purpose. Time, the great destroyer of other men's happiness, only enlarges the patrimony of literature to its possessor. If you wish to be loved, show more of your faults than your virtues. When a person is down in the world, an ounce of help is better than a pound of preaching. Power is so characteristically calm that calmness in itself has the aspect of strength. Art and science have their meeting point in method. The man who succeeds above his fellows is the one who early in life clearly discerns his object and towards that object habitually directs his powers. Remorse is the echo of a lost virtue. One of the sublimest things in the world is plain truth. Art and science have their meeting point in method. To find what you seek in the road of life, the best proverb of all is that which says, "Leave no stone unturned." The prudent person may direct a state, but it is the enthusiast who regenerates or ruins it. Whatever the number of a man's friends, there will be times in his life when he has one too few. He who has health has hope, and he who has hope has everything. When you cannot reason nor persuade, you can at least laugh them into patience. Destiny is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. It is not a thing to be waited for. It is a thing to be achieved. When the brain gets as dry as an empty nut, where you can hear the heart rattle as it beats, we are glad of a straw and a wren's feather. In life as in art, the beautiful moves in curves. A reform is a correction of abuses. A revolution is a transfer of power. There are three difficulties in authorship: to write anything worth publishing, to find honest men to publish it, and to get sensible men to read it. The pen that writes for fame writes to a very limited circle. That which gives happiness gives the world something that is felt everywhere. Fate laughs at probabilities. What we call luck is the inner man externalized. We make things happen to us. When we see how little we are, how can we be anything but happy in what is? If the world is a stage, the soul is the player and destiny the plot. Patience is not passive. On the contrary, it is active. It is concentrated strength. We live in deeds, not years; in thoughts, not breaths; in feelings, not in figures on a dial. We should count time by heart-throbs. There is nothing certain in a man's life but that he must lose it. The brightest hours of mankind are the pages in which we read of their struggles and triumphs. What you think too much about, you imagine you understand. There are two kinds of people in the world: those who walk into a room and say, "Here I am," and those who walk in and say, "Ah, there you are." Poverty is only contemptible when it is felt to be so. Doubtless the best way to make our poverty respectable is to appear as if we did not feel it as poverty. Our energies are often most productive when we are impelled by the law of reaction rather than that of invention. He who believes in freedom of the will has never loved and never hated. The knowledge of the theory of logic has no tendency whatever to make men good reasoners. When we talk of tomorrow, the gods laugh. In the lexicon of youth, which fate reserves for bright manhood, there is no such word as fail. Happiness is not an absolute value. It is a state of comparison. He who stops being better stops being good. To be happy, the passions must first be obedient to reason. What men want is not talent. It is purpose. Grief is the agony of an instant. The indulgence of grief, the blunder of a life. One of the surest evidences of an elevated taste is the power of enjoying works of imagination. The wise man thinks once before he speaks twice. There is no man so friendless, but that he can find a friend sincere enough to tell him disagreeable truths. Anger ventilated often hurries towards forgiveness. Anger concealed often hardens into revenge. The true strength of a man is in calmness. Every man who observes vigilantly and resolves steadfastly grows unconsciously into genius. A man's best fortune, or his worst, is his wife. When a person is down in the world, an ounce of help is better than a pound of preaching. Success is not the result of spontaneous combustion. You must set yourself on fire. There is no solitude in nature, for it ever leads the heart into fellowship with something that it loves. Dwell not on the past. Use it to illustrate a point, then leave it behind. Better to write for yourself and have no public than to write for the public and have no self. There is no wealth like knowledge, no poverty like ignorance. Imagination is but another name for superhuman insight. It is not by the gray of the hair that one knows the age of the heart. When the soul is not satisfied, it searches for an escape. Sometimes in dreams, sometimes in memories, in solitude where we are least alone. Happiness is a shadow. It cannot be grasped, but it can be followed. The best way to predict the future is to invent it. In science, read by preference the newest works. In literature, the oldest. When people talk, listen completely. Most people never listen.